The various actors in the mode are the ones who start the creation. Thank you for making it. There is no different character at any time. The organizers. Yes, I said yes. Serva, that's a different character. But the whole women, however, when he reached before the previous year. Serva didn't change one of them. In Hungary, it's just a slightly different ability. The European Union's gold reserve. The most important different ability is in Serbia. Serbia has no different ability. And what is going on here? Firefighters and their different skills in Serbia. Their different skills in Serbia. Another different skill. Serbia is second with its landslides. I think the firefighters, the experience and the Prime Minister are still struggling hard. I wish you a good evening. How are the battles going now in more and more areas? They say that the consensus based on Article 1 and 22 should be abandoned. We already hear this in connection with our Russian assets, and we hear this in connection with the common judgment. Well, here's a historical mistake. So the circumstance is that the 6-monthly decision on frozen Russian assets, which always required unanimity, was abolished, circumvented, undermined, and they figured out that instead of unanimity, a majority decision could be made. I think that's a historical mistake. This will have very serious consequences. It is clear that we are dealing with a miscarriage of justice, that is, a clear violation of the law. They are using a section of the basic treaty for this decision that has nothing to do with this situation. This is something that is done in member states, but it is a clear violation of the law. Such a position cannot be defended in courts. However, the Union has embarked on this very dangerous path. And indeed, from now on, the question is open. If they could violate the law once, bypass the member states, they could do it again. Here is another, completely different area, but similar problem. This is the issue of Mr. Mercus, where they want to sign the Mr. Mercus agreement like the bureaucrats in Brussels in order to bypass the decision and rights of the member states. This is a conspiracy. This is a coup d'etat. There is no other way to say it. There is a conspiracy against member states, and the fear that this could then happen in other areas, and to others, not just Hungarians. This is a realistic fear. This must be stopped. I wonder if the member states will be able to rein in Brussels. This is necessary and urgent. The European leadership has many sins. So the current European leadership has some historical mistakes that can be classified as crimes. Such was this completely chaotic, mindless method of the transition, which destroyed European economies. First, support for migration. The second, war is the third. I have to say that there have been such leadership mistakes here in the recent period. They have led the European Union, the European member states, into such a dead end that we should no longer argue about it. But slowly, someone needs to point out who is responsible. How did we get here? They ruined the entire European economy. When von der Leyen came into office, this was a competitive region. There was no talk of war. This was a peace project. We are at war now. Well, someone is responsible. That's why we got here. Here is failure, failure after failure. So I think that breaking away from Russian energy is a failure. The right idea is to have something other than Russian energy available to the member states and the continent. Let's diversify. The more legs you have, the more stable you are. But cutting yourself off from the most important source of supply is stupid, and it clearly goes against Hungarian interests. So we will always fight this. We have done quite well so far. Prime Minister, regarding the separation of the gypsies, I would like to ask that in the recent period, countless agreements have been made with Azerbaijan, the United States, and other sources, so that they will finally accept the European fires. We will never, 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 never accept a decision to divest from any energy source, because the goal is not to divest from anything, but to diversify, to have access to as many sources as possible. What we are doing to Russia now is an unreasonable thing to do. We are cutting ourselves off from one of the most abundant and cheapest resources. It is completely unjustified, senseless, economically irrational. Of course, we have to buy from others. It will be necessary in the next period as well. In fact, we are not just buying oil and gas, we are buying entire fields. So now Hungary has entered that historical period when we are no longer responding to our own energy exposure by just buying from different countries and diversifying. But Hungary, sometimes its state-owned company MVM, sometimes one of the large private companies MOL, is buying fields. So now Hungary owns oil and gas fields. And we must continue this policy. And are these short-term sources competitive in price with Russia? Well, this trade belongs to the traders. We will definitely represent ourselves regarding the Fuslavak regulation. We will continue the discussions about what it is actually about. This cannot be interpreted in the language of Hungarian law, so you can't question something. We don't know of such a thing in Hungarian law when something can't be questioned. In one case, there is such a thing, the Holocaust denial that a fact cannot be denied. But otherwise, the existence of the Bénés decrees, that they exist, is a fact that no one denies. We will say that it is good that it is. We have to leave it like this. It can be changed, so I think we should first clarify what exactly the new law is about. We are also in contact with the Hungarians in the uplands, and then we will see how we should proceed. Well, our calendar is full. We'll see sooner or later for sure. That's true. We'll veto it, yes. Sorry, I don't want to joke. So the point is, the plan so far has been to use Russian assets to finance Ukraine, which I think is an open declaration of war. So now that we think about it, what are we talking about? There are two countries that are at war with each other. One of them will have his assets seized, more than 200 billion euros. Then the one who seized this, who is a third actor not involved in the war, but in the Ukrainian-Russian war. This actor will take and give this asset to one of the warring parties. What is this? This is a declaration of war. This is entering a war, so this would be a terrible mistake if we made it. But I see from today's news that in the afternoon's background negotiations, it seems like we won. And tomorrow we will no longer talk about frozen Russian assets, because what was said earlier has finally been understood and will probably be taken off the table. But then the question arises, if they want to continue the war, how should it happen? And the proposal on the Belgian table will be to take out a joint loan, which is unacceptable for Hungary. And according to our calculations, war is expensive and peace is cheap. They say they die in war, but no one will give in to peace. So we propose that we put aside the whole strategy, which is a failed union strategy and a strategy that supports war. Turn around, come out of this dead end, and start a peace policy. The easiest way to do this is to stand behind the President of the United States and say that the only thing we have to do now is to help the President of the United States succeed in creating peace. We don't have that much to do now. We don't need to decide anything else.